fashion psychologist. I took a look at your LinkedIn and saw that you have a master's in it and that like you've made a full career out of it. But can you kind of explain to me what that is? I feel like it's something that sounds so niche, but at the same time, there's such an obvious overlap. So can you kind of explain like what that looks like?
A fashion psychologist pretty much explores the deep connections between what we wear and how we think, feel, and behave. And my work personally is rooted in understanding how clothing impacts identity, emotional well being, and personal growth. And it's not necessarily about trends. Some of my colleagues do trend forecasting and do market analysis, so they're more on the consumer end of things. So, but for me, it's not really surface level styling. It's about uncovering the psychological layers beneath our wardrobe choices. So, in practice, that pretty much means that I work with individuals and businesses to explore how clothing can be used as a tool for self expression, confidence building, and even healing. And for me, that is really important. And for some clients, it's about just aligning their wardrobe with a new life chapter. And for others, it's about breaking free from societal expectations and learning to dress from a place of authenticity rather than performance. So if we're thinking about what is fashion psychology, it's about agency. So it gives people the tool to dress in a way that reflects not just how you want to be seen, but also how they actually are.
And what does kind of like your day to day look like? I'm sure it looks different every day, but kind of like what are all the different things that you do? I know you work with different companies. Like, do you have clients? Like, kind of what does that look like?
So I'm currently actually breaking. Well, you're right. My life and my day looks very different day to day. One of the core components of my day structure is my podcast, like acquiring guests, having pre-calls where we get to know each other, and then scheduling everything, and then editing, do all of the post-ed on all of that, and then the social media component. I'm trying to do more edutainment, so trying to make people more aware about intentional dressing and what fashion psychology even is, because a lot of people just don't have, they have never heard of that before. So for them, it's very, very new. I do have some clients. I'm currently focusing more on personal one-on-one client work. I have worked with businesses before, but that's currently not my core, because I want to help people. I want the person out there to know that I'm there and I can help you feel better and more aligned with who you are.
And like, what does the client work look like?
So that's a good question. So I have three different ways to approach this. So either I have someone coming in for an hour and we're just talking and just getting kind of like a little pick me up kind of moment where we're talking about like quick tips and easy things to approach. That's usually like the easiest way to start and try to figure out how much you even need it. Then I have a 8 hour full day workshop pretty much where we're talking about wardrobe inventory, where I'm laying foundational knowledge work. It's kind of like, it's not like a course, but it's like a one-on-one where we're talking through what are your goals, what are your aspirations, and how can I help you make your closet align with to achieve those goals on a psychological fundamental level. And then I have also an experience package, which is more like a VIP package, which is over 6 weeks. So you have like regular check-ins over 6 weeks. You have homework to do, and we're just touching base and doing stuff like that. So that's usually how the client work looks like.
How do you kind of meld like the psychology world with the fashion world? I know you said like you align it with like their goals and that sort of thing, but what does the overlap look like? I know you said I read on your site, I think that you use, I think it's CBT, cognitive behavioral techniques. How do you kind of like meld those two worlds?
Well, in the end, as fashion is a tool, right? So I'm looking at it not as just clothing that is wrapped around our wonderful, beautiful bodies. I'm looking at it from like a different perspective. I'm looking at it from Do you have pieces in your wardrobe that mean something to you? Do you have maybe a jacket from a father that has passed, unfortunately? And how can we utilize that in your own style and in your own day to day to help you facilitate certain positive aspects? As an example, one client of mine, she, we realized that she had a jacket from her like late grandfather. It was a military jacket. Um, and she had it sitting in, like, a memory box. I think a lot of people have, like, memory boxes out there, and and she was like, "Yeah, I just never, like, wanted to touch it because, it's from my granddad, and he was, like, a massive inspiration for me." And she's a young entrepreneur, so she has, like, her own startup and trying to push that through the market, and we the initial reason why we even went onto this conversation was because she had to deliver, like, an elevator pitch, and she is very anxious around public speaking and just didn't feel like the box breathing methods and practicing methods would help enough. And then she wasn't sure what to wear. So we kind of went through her wardrobe and did a little inventory and looked at, like, why does she feel actually anxious? Like, what is the reason why? And, without revealing too much, we ended up actually her trying on this jacket over a dress and, made it styled in a way that would be appropriate for the venue that she was having to go to, and she actually won the pitch, so it was amazing. So, it was just like this, giving her the opportunity to utilize a garment that has fundamental memories attached to it that helped her to, then just utilize that intentionally and feeling like the feeling of having her granddad there with her, almost hugging her, like being like, "I'm here because you have my jacket." It kind of boosted her confidence, and it made her just feel so much more secure. And she also told me later on that she didn't want to, like, she wanted to make him proud. So when she wore it, she felt like he was standing behind the stage and watching. So it's kind of this kind of work, but a lot of people don't think about it. So that's why you need, like, someone who has an outside perspective who's not emotionally attached to that to help you with sorting through things. And I also make it always very clear in my line of work, I am very much focused on social and environmental sustainability. So I'm not doing this with people for them to just go shopping and revamp their entire wardrobe. I'm actually needing them to keep what they have in their wardrobe and just think about what pieces of those garments in your wardrobe that had a certain identity, or were part of a certain identity of yours. How did that, like, change? Why do you not fit into this identity anymore? And how can we then bridge the gap in utilizing what you once were with who you are now and who you are becoming? So it's kind of like creating the synergy between all 3.
Wow, that is such an incredible example. And like I said, I knew there was a link there, but when you break it down, you're just like, whoa, like this makes so much sense. And that's like such a great example in general. Cause I was kind of thinking like you would try and find pieces that are like most flattering on the body to like boost confidence and that sort of thing. But this example like even makes it so much more meaningful because it's bringing like a really meaningful piece into the wardrobe and figuring out like how to make it style with your stuff. But then as you were talking, like you said, it also I realized like added another layer of like being able to be sustainable, and so that's like a really cool aspect of it too. But I'm wondering like is it also a mixture between like looking at pieces that um, like have meaning to you, but at the same time like does it have anything to do with like finding what's most flattering for the body, like how much is that a part of it?
Well, I use, maybe to give you a little bit of background of how I even got into this field, because that usually helps to understand the process a bit better. My path into this field was quite funny, I guess. I always say that fashion was a language I used to understand myself when words failed me. So it wasn't until I studied psychology, as you pointed out in my master's degree, that I realized how powerful this language actually was. So when we talk about language, right, clothing is a massive nonverbal communication tool. And I knew that early on, not only because I utilized it myself, but because I was working as a designer and I was working as a fashion stylist. Or I'm in the fashion industry for over a decade now. And I have been on the product. I've been breathing product. It wasn't my language, it was how I projected myself outward. And also how I reflected with myself inwards. So when I realized, one example, when I realized that I started dressing not as myself anymore. I dressed quite frumpy or just didn't care how I looked anymore to get out of the door. I realized that it was time to move on, that I needed to have a change because I realized that, as an example, that job didn't suit me anymore because I didn't feel who I was anymore. So when it comes to my work with clients, it's not styling work per se. So of course, I want people to feel confident and comfortable, but and I know how to dress people so they look flattering, but I want to get away from this. It's also kind of this body positivity aspect of it. Um, we change, and it has to do with self-love and self-acceptance, that you just have to kind of embrace who you are. You can change if you feel like you're too big and you or too skinny and you want to gain weight or you want to lose weight. Um, you can do that, but it won't change overnight. So while you are trying to move towards the perfect version of yourself, you need to still be able to love yourself in that moment. And a lot of people forget when they are getting dressed, like they fall into this down spiral of like, I hate who I am. And I'm like, no, stop here. And that's where the psychological work comes in. That's where we're doing exercises to reflect on how we see ourselves. So it has a lot to do with self-love, self-confidence, self-reflection. And in the end, clothing and dressing yourself is an act of self-care. So I always say that, even on like I've been on TV lately a lot, and we've been speaking a lot about like self-perception and confidence comes from within. It doesn't come from how you dress. It comes from how you feel. So when we're bridging that gap by finding pieces that in your wardrobe maybe don't fit anymore, then bring it to a tailor. They can help you make it fit, because they can let out a trouser for you, if you cannot do it yourself. And we find pieces that fit together, but we're looking at a psychological impact of things. And not only of the things itself, because we're utilizing in the coaching the clothing as tools, not as the thing that will completely change your life. That is still a lot of inward and psychological work you have to do.
Yeah, definitely. And you've brought up so many different thoughts during that. I do have a couple of questions and we can get to each of them. Um, Firstly, I kind of do want to know if you like are willing to share like what kind of got you into like this field specifically. But I also do want to like talk about and share and open up because I feel this on such a personal level. I've gone through an eating disorder in the past. And I definitely and I've fluctuated in weight and I definitely so relate to like using fashion as like I think I actually did see on your LinkedIn profile. I think the quote was like something from Bill Cunningham about using like fashion as armor, which I relate to so much. And so like I've noticed at different areas of my life, like I'll use it to like cover up or yeah, just different ways, but usually it's mostly like to cover up and like I've noticed that it's not like it's gone above my head. Um but at the same time like it is such a reflection of where you're at mentally and I think people like forget that. Like it is a source of like you said communication and it really shows how you feel about yourself. Um and so yeah, we can go into my first question. Like I would love to know a little bit more about like what got you into this field specifically and then kind of like just comments about that journey later.
Yeah, so like I said, I used to work in the fashion industry as a designer and stylist, so I've been at product my entire life. Um, and I love fashion even when I was a kid. I was like the one that, my mom is super talented. She can like sew and stuff, and I picked that up from her. I actually ended up, before I did my design degree, I actually worked as a seamstress. I did an entire 3-year apprenticeship, so I know how to construct and create a garment from scratch, which helps a lot to understand not only the garment construction, but also to understand the anatomy of you, right? Because you're trying to create something that fits a 3D body. Um, but anytime when I was not only dressing myself, but even dressing clients, when I was styling people and help them to figure out like how they wanted to dress, and give them a little bit of a boost of confidence, I realized that there was a lot of work even done, like I don't wanna say it was like a therapy session, but it felt like, when you have like this good, like, night in the evening when you're hanging out with your friends and you're playing dress up and you're talking about, like, the ex-boyfriend who left you and you kind of let it all out. That's kind of like how it felt oftentimes, and I was like, "Wow," and then she dresses and then the way she talked about herself changed, and, like, all of this kind of, like, happened, and it always stuck with me. It stuck with me for over 10 years, and I was like, "Wow, there's so much more," and even I realized, like, when I dress differently, like, I walk differently. I mean, we all know that as women, when we wear high heels, our posture changes because we have to, but it also immediately reflects inwards to our confidence, and, there was no term for it at the time. There was just no term. So, when I started to do some training in life coaching as well, just because I thought that this would probably be the bridge, and then I realized that this master's program here in London exists, to do applied psychology and fashion, which is pretty much a psychology degree, but we're looking at it like the research and the tasks we had to do were primarily focused on fashion industry, clothing, consumer psychology, all of that. So it kind of like it all slotted in because the fashion psychology itself is such a broad aspect. So for me, I was then finally able to fuse the two, fuse my fashion background with the new psychology background I have. And my background in psychological theory became the foundation, and my lived experience in the fashion world gave me the color and the texture, if you wanna talk synonyms. And it's been deeply personal and a very academic journey all at once. I do still work, on research papers, so I'm still doing research. I'm a researcher. And I personally look into emotion regulatory processes and identity reinforcement and self-protection. And that kind of feeds in what you just said, that, a lot of people try to use their clothing as armor and to hide. And even my research has shown that it does it does that primarily because people don't know how to utilize it otherwise. Because it's so easy, if you're having to feel more authoritarian, right? You reach for the blazer automatically because it has this societal stigma that when you're wearing a suit, you're a person of authority. So this kind of meaning attached to that garment then trickles into your psyche and it actually affects your your behavior and your thinking. It's a study that's been done in 2012, I think, um, by Adam and Galinsky, which is called Enclosed Cognition, where they actually did the foundational work of that research was that if we're attaching meaning to a garment, oftentimes already done by society, then it has an effect even to our as us as a person in our psychological and our cognitive processes. So it actually does have an effect. A lot of people would say placebo or whatever. It's not. It's actually you put a lab coat on and you feel like a researcher, you feel like a doctor. It has an effect on how you approach tasks to be solved, and it affects your productivity. So when we're thinking about how can we utilize it, not necessarily only to shield ourselves, which is a natural thing to do, to be really honest. Um, I think that it's important to keep in mind that we should not live in a um, consistent realm of suppressing emotions because that's what kind of shielding does, right? We're trying to not let it get to us, but it's so 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 important for our mental health that we are feeling our feelings when it's time, right? You can suppress when you have to go into like an HR meeting and you know it's not going to be good. Please dress up to the way that it's not going to affect you and you don't have to cry. But when you get out of the room or you get home, let it out, feel it through, because you cannot suppress emotions selectively. That's the thing that a lot of people underestimate. You cannot select, oh yeah, I just suppress my sadness. It's just not how it works. If you suppress one, you suppress all. That means that you suppress joy, you suppress happiness, you suppress anything. And that puts you into a state of functional freeze, which then puts you into a down spiral of your mental health. So that's why I'm saying that fashion is a tool, right? We're utilizing it to shield us for a while, for us to hide, but we still need to do the groundwork to feel emotionally resilient, to walk out there and still be authentically us, not hiding.
Do you feel like because this is somewhat of an unexplored field, obviously like it's a master's degree at London College of Fashion, like there is something to it, but at the same time I feel like amongst the general population it's not something that's thought about as much. So do you think that like, and I know we're kind of like going off track here, but sometimes I feel like that's how like the best conversations happen too.
Absolutely.
And so do you feel like generally people like suppress I guess like their emotions and their like authentic self with their clothes? And then like what are your best tips on like not doing that?
Well, that's a very good question. Well, I cannot speak for the general population, of course, but it is known in studies, and we've seen it with the rise of mental health crisis, and here in London, our wait list for even see a therapist through the NHS is ginormous. That people need more support. I think that's also not. I think I know that this is why I'm doing this because therapy is really expensive, especially in the United States, especially in countries that don't have easy, accessible healthcare. And I think that if you can utilize what you already own and you just have to do a bit of thinking work and it even takes the edge off of you feeling really down that day, that's already a win for me. So that's why I'm doing this. I want people to feel better in the end. I want to leave this planet by having left it a little bit better than I found it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And with clothing, and yes, people do hide, especially people who feel very insecure. I think there was a massive rise of people trying to, who took massive hit on confidence was during the pandemic because a lot of people just stayed home. They just didn't, yeah, they just didn't move around anymore. They worked from home. They started wearing comfy trousers and comfy outfits and twin sets and jogging pants. And I mean, we saw that even in the rise of like what has been sold in the industry. The trend of athleisure was way more up in speed. I mean, some people took it in a way of like, yeah, I'm go becoming the fittest person on earth and just started their journey because they had more time to do it. For me, it was not the case. I gained a lot of weight during that time. It affected me mentally a lot because the fashion industry was pretty much dead at the time, and my entire carpet was thrown like the floor opened up and swallowed me whole. That's how it felt, and yeah, you had to kind of rethink and restart and figure out like who you are now in a moment of crisis. And that's actually a lot of client work and people that I talk with in general. The most people that need this the most is who go through a massive life change, who maybe had children or are empty nesters now, or um, are so going through divorce, going through a breakup, feeling like they need to reinvent themselves. So they finally want to tap into the person who they really want to become, and they just don't know where to start. And it's so easy to actually dress yourself in the way you see yourself in the future and kind of manifest the person you are becoming because it does trickle, because the clothing that you then put on have a meaning because it has a meaning of the future you, and it then trickles down into you and you start embodying this person and it opens up just more opportunities. That's just how it works. And I think in the end, it's super, super important that people are aware that healthcare and like that therapy and actually getting professional help, my work does not take that away. You have to still do it. If you're really struggling with depression, with anxiety, fashion psychologists can help you take the edge off, but it's not therapy. So it's really, really important that you get yourself help. So just as a disclaimer here. But yeah, it can take the edge off, and it can help you just tap into the person you want to become.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's like it's not medicine, but at the same time, it's like little keys that you can do to help yourself. Because I know when I've gone through like really tough times in my life, like it's like if I put on like some makeup and an outfit, it does help me to feel better. And it's sometimes those little steps that can like help to like propel you forward, whether that might be like influencing you to go like get therapy or go be out with your friends or go outside. Like it's just little things like that that can help to like change your mindset. So I so recognize that.
I think it's also really important if we're thinking about it. Like when I was going through a tough time with my mental health, I fell into this kind of rhythm of being stuck. So I was not able, like I was getting out of bed, but then I, moved myself in my PJs from bed to the sofa and, did apply to jobs and whatever. And I fell into this rhythm of just not caring about me. I cared about what needed to be done, the functional part of life, like that I have to function in society, but I didn't think about myself. And when I started incorporating little small tricks like actually getting dressed, taking a shower, I know that for some people who are really struggling with mental health, even taking a shower can be an enormous task. But in the end, it's so, so important that you, even small things, brush your teeth, get yourself, put yourself on a lipstick. It's like simple, easy. You can do it on the sofa. You can sit in your PJs and wear a lipstick. If it makes you feel better, that's already great because you did something to love yourself. And I'm not saying that you should put on makeup to feel better. I mean, if you feel fabulous like Pamela Anderson without any makeup, awesome. Then do that. But as an example, or paint your fingernails, or do anything that makes you feel like you're taking care of yourself. Put on a mask, a clay mask or whatever. Anything that is some sort of self wellness. And that's still a lot of effort. So if you just want to put on your favorite t-shirt that you bought on a concert that was the best concert of your life and it and put on the music that you listened to on that concert, it will give you an dopamine hit and it will just make you happier and you will thrive better. And you asked for like a few small tips and tricks. So the one trick that I always tell everyone, when you stand in front of your wardrobe, and we all know this, especially us women, we know this. We have too many things, but nothing to wear. Don't think about it from a garment putting a style outfit together. You don't think about what are you going to wear that day. Think about how do you have to feel or how do you want to feel that day. And then you have to think about like, okay, I have this one blouse that makes me feel fierce and determined because anytime I put it on, like my posture changes and I think about a memory when I wore it. And then I have a skirt that, I just thrifted and I love it because it's something I would have never worn in my life before. So I feel like I'm tapping out into a new territory and I'm stepping into the unknown. It might not look the way together as you would envision it. You might not ever style it together even, but it also gives you the opportunity to put these two pieces on and then you can explore how to make it look right rather than and you already have the foundation of how it will make you feel. And that will also make the styling process easier because you're not putting two things together that you just don't like. You selected two pieces that you really need because they will ground you in a state of feeling, a state of emotion that then can push you to do the best things in the world. And then you style it, you approach the styling process already better. And in the end, that kind of this one small switch of like not asking yourself, oh, what should I wear today? How do I want to feel today? This small switch in mindset can already set you up to utilize your wardrobe as an act of self-care, as an act of setting yourself up for success and setting yourself up in a way that you start the day intentionally and that can have massive benefits to you.
I love that you brought up like it doesn't have to like look one way. Like you said, like if it's Pamela Anderson who doesn't want to wear makeup, like it doesn't have to look that way. It can be like you said, like a t-shirt from a concert that you really loved. Like It just has to be something that's meaningful to you and that makes you feel good and like you're doing something for yourself. So I think that's like such a great tip. But then I also love the tip of like looking at your wardrobe for the day and like looking at it and being like, okay, what do I want to feel? Because even as someone like me who loves fashion, I don't think I've looked at it in that way. I kind of just like, I feel like most people like just look at it and it's like, oh, like what's gonna look good today? And I feel like maybe on some sort of like subconscious level, you're thinking, how do I want to feel? But maybe not using it like so intentionally or to the best of your ability. And so I can definitely see myself like making that change of like, okay, like I want to feel like a boss today, but I also want to be comfortable. Like, how do I meld those things?
It's really funny because I used to have like when I was still working in product, I had like my wardrobe, how it was like cleaned up and tidied. I had it so stringently. It was like a showroom. It was like product. So I had all products lined up, like blazers next to blazers next to blazers, and then trousers next to trousers, and then the shirts, and I even then had them always structured the same way, like long sleeve through short sleeve, and then and then the second layer of yeah, and then the secondly, probably a bit of OCD there, but but it was like the second layer was then color, right? So I went from darks to lights, and then like the rainbow, because I just like to look at it in a way that it's like neat and tidy. My wardrobe doesn't look like that anymore. I'm actually sorting my wardrobe now based on the need. So it would look to everyone who likes neat and tidy, it would look like it's such a mess. But it does make sense for me because I have my blouses and shirts and jackets together that kind of embody the certain identity that I like to, like the identity of being a fashion psychologist. But then I have pieces in my wardrobe that are all together that I know that I can reach into blind. And this is me being a wife, me being a cat mom, or, me being traveling. Like I have a travel section of things that I usually don't necessarily wear in London every day. It's more something that I, wear when or take with me when I'm traveling to visit my sister or something. Right. So I'm 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 looking at my wardrobe now from a more fashion psychology perspective, and that's also one of the big things that we're doing during this coaching. It's like the wardrobe inventory, and that can sometimes for people who really feel lost and feel like they are starting anew. That can take a lot of time, and it's a very emotionally heavy labor because you have to go through it, and it's not like you are like looking at it and oh, it does it spark joy in me, kind of, but it goes way deeper because most of them have like really really heavy memories. I mean, if you have like a shirt that you got punished for wearing, you might kept it because you want to wear it because you got it for a reason, but it doesn't necessarily feel safe to wear. So how do we approach that? So it's a really deeply emotional process. And then when you have it ready and ready to go, and you have a few pieces that you have to let go, or a few pieces you have to just let sit in your wardrobe for 2 years because the process has not been gone through emotionally that you're ready to touch it yet. Um, I always say that, like, I have this is like the hangout thing story that I repeat myself, but I repeat myself until everyone heard it, I guess. I have this one blouse, it's like a white blouse with black dots, and I love that blouse. It's a blouse that, my late grandmother owned. Um, when she passed in 2019, I could I knew I wanted to have that blouse. I wanted it, so I got it. But, I I could not touch it. I could not look at it because the grief was just still sitting too fresh. Grief doesn't leave you. Grief stays with you your entire life. It's like you're attached for something chronic. But in the end, I was like, I needed time to process the loss and feel and let the grief transform into the leftover love that it just is. And in the end, I was like, wow, like it took me, I think, a year until I could actually touch it. But then, like, every time I wear it now, I'm like, "My grandma is here," and she's like, "Oh, you're so beautiful, and you're so fierce," and she was not a person of many words, but she was a person of, like, when she said something, it meant something. So anytime I wear this, I feel so much more deliberate and measured and calculated. I feel like, wow, like, anything I'm going to say is going to matter. and my language pattern slightly changes even if I wear it. So it's so fascinating. Not that I'm embodying her, but it's just the part that she brings out of me or brought out of me when I was younger. So this is like the power of one insanely powerful piece of garment in my wardrobe. I am fully aware of that, but I also had to let it sit in my wardrobe because I could not touch it in the beginning, because it would have just made me feel sorrowful and sad. So I'm also one of those people who says like, yeah, if you haven't worn something in 10 years, that's fine. You don't have to throw it away. Let's look at it why you bought it then, and how can we make it work now? And you maybe incorporate it more.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point of like just like the relation to clothes and like people that were special to you, because like you think about like I can think of examples like when my grandma passed away, like if you start to like wear it, it's like you almost have to accept that they're gone kind of thing. And so I totally understand like the wanting to like, let's keep it in the closet until I'm like really ready to like acknowledge that. And then once you have, then it feels like special and that they're closer to you and that you're kind of embodying their energy and the things that you really loved about them. So I love that approach to it. But also, I find it so interesting the way you categorize your wardrobe. It it almost goes against though the approach of I guess like the closet organizers who do it by color and all these different things. Like it so goes against that, and so I find that so interesting. It's almost like we have like a typical way that people tend to organize things by color, you know, style, etc. But can you kind of explain how you organize it then?
Well, first of all, a little disclaimer here. I mean, everyone needs to figure out their own way, right? Because in the end, we're all individuals and we're all living differently. I'm neurodiverse. So if you try to put like Marie Kondo on me, that won't work because it's just like the typical ways of how I organize my brain work doesn't work in alignment with that. And surprisingly, a lot of my clients are very neurodiverse too. So it makes sense then. And sometimes for people who have these perfect, picture perfect closet organized, they get messy really quickly because it just doesn't serve them. So I'm just offering another option onto the buffet table for people to pick from, I guess. Um, so yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still have my blazers all together, but that has a reason because my blazers all make me feel very similar, right? So I do have them like still slightly color coded because otherwise it's just too messy and your brain cannot like comprehend. But I do sort by need. So I'm looking at I'm very, very aware of what I need to wear to feel a certain way, to evoke my emotion regulatory processes in a way that I need to utilize them that day. And that also varies from day to day. Maybe one day, and for us women, our hormone cycles, we might not feel that one Tuesday the way we feel the following Tuesday or the Tuesday before. And then it might take us a month until we feel the same way again on that one Tuesday. So, so for me, I realized that me just going through my standard, I do have my standard uniform outfits that I always together. So I have my trouser that I usually always wear with like a few shirts that I always know I can reach into if I need to reduce the cognitive load of having to make decisions. Because that's also, it's a real thing. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, all of the big CEOs out there who do this typical, like, I wear only a gray t shirt every day because I don't have to, it's one decision less for me to think about. That's very true. That's very real. So if that suits you, then do it. For me, I utilize clothing intentionally. So for me, wearing a gray t-shirt every single day, that would make me very depressed. So yeah, so I'm not doing that. So for me, yeah, I organize my wardrobe based on need. So I look at my emotional need, I look at my occupational need, I don't have a very simple day to day, like 9 to 5 job. So for me, I sometimes even change when I feel like I need like a pick me up, or I woke up with a foul mood and I worked my way through my emails and I kind of did what I had to do. And then I need to kind of like, okay, my husband texted me and it's like, hey, I'm coming home from work. Why don't we go out for dinner? I'm like, oh yeah, but I need to switch into a different mood now. then I reach for the pieces that I know that will afford me that liberty of feeling and stepping into this feeling and boosting me, nudging me into the direction that I can feel that way. So I don't have like all of my date pieces together because I sometimes use a blouse that I wear on a date, also on a day-to-day job. But I do know where they are, and I try to cluster them as much as I can together. So I kind of not occasion dressing; it's need based sorting, I guess. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm just wondering, like, so it's like if you could kind of like explain it, it would be like, okay, like now I want to feel like romantic and sexy. Like, is that kind of like the different like ways to organize? And I know you said like it's so personal based on like every person's circumstances because everyone is so different, especially when you're looking through a psychological lens. And so everyone can like pick their own way to do it, but like, is that kind of like the way you approach it of like, okay, like these are gonna make me feel like a boss and like confident at work. These are gonna make me feel romantic and sexy, like that kind of stuff.
I have my armor pieces, yeah, my armor pieces that are stuck in one corner, and then I have my divine feminine pieces. I have two, like the skirts and the dresses, and it also, by the way, it also helps like visually to see how you feel a lot. So it kind of like, like during summer when I'm super happy, like let's say our engagement anniversary comes around, and my husband, as an example, is one of those wonderful men who makes me feel very safe, like that I'm allowed to tap into my feminine side a lot. And same way how this trend is going around right now, like he made me feel safe enough that I like the color pink again or something. Um, because for us women, we have to fight so much day in and then out to be heard, to even be heard in a room. Not even getting a seat on the table, but just to be heard in a room. So when I am having like an occasion where I feel very lovey-dovey, let's say, and I'm feeling very feminine and embracing that softer side of me, I do have that sectioned off. So I have that like that piece, like this one flowy blouse, this one dress. It's still me. So I will never look like a woman who is embodying elegance and flowiness. I live in a city, so I don't wear a lot of chiffon as an example. But I do have like my type, my version of elegance and femininity I have in my wardrobe, and I have that in that corner. And then I do exactly what you just said. If I need to feel armored up, I have that section there and I reach for it. So I also don't have to think about it as much. And also that can change, right? Sometimes, like this blouse that I talked about was in my armor section for a very long time. It's now in my day to day. I feel fierce section, kind of. So I actually have to probably like take a photo at some point of my wardrobe and just circle it up and actually be aware of which sections I do have because they vary and they change also based on seasons. Like we're coming out of winter now. Spring is trickling in. London has had the first stretch of a week of sun, which is very amazing. So yeah, it does vary. But yeah, I do have a section where I'm like, yeah, I need to feel like fierce, and I have a lot of interviews that day. Oh yeah, okay. So I have these three blouses that always make me feel really eloquent and removes my colloquial language patterns out of my brain. So I'm going to reach for those that day. So yeah, that's pretty much how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. I was noticing like as you were talking, like it's like I could recognize that you like there might be times where you're feeling more vulnerable and that's when you'll want to go for like the armor pieces, but when you're feeling like safe within yourself, that's when you can be like you'll just get a different version of your clothing. Like you can be more fun and feminine. It really is based off of where you're at in life. But I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed as to like your approach throughout this interview is that like I feel like if you have like an average stylist, it's like all about how you look and what you do is way more about how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most stylists do work that goes into my direction. I'm just utilizing clothing solely as a tool. And it's not necessarily on need basis of having to shop differently, right? So so styling work is very similar to mine, but it's just not the same. So you are right. But I know, as an example, I know stylists who do work that is resembling of my work, but it's not the same because they don't have the psychological background to do so. But they help you to pick you up. I did that when I was working as a stylist solely styling. I went in, we did wardrobe inventory in a different way. And the person said, I have an interview and I desperately need an outfit to wear for that. And then I have a date after, so I need something that can transform. Then I helped with that. But we still did like the mind work. It just wasn't as in depth as it is now.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we have come to 45 minutes. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I so appreciate this. I found it so fascinating, particularly like how you organize your closet. And just like I know going forward, I'm going to approach like how I look at clothes and dressing differently. And I'm just so excited to keep up with your work because this is just totally like even as a fashion girl this has changed the way that I look at it, and so I think this is such incredible work and I'm so excited to also see like where it goes in the future.
Yeah, me too. I hope so. The one thing that I maybe want to give you away before we cut off is I think people need to start understanding that clothing is a second skin, and it's the what the world sees before we even speak. So when someone has a fractional relationship with their style, it's it's often a reflection of a deeper disconnection from their self and self-worth. So I've seen that a lot in my work, and after years of dressing to appease others, which I did. Like I dressed a lot to just look pretty and fit into the stereotypical body types and whatever. Playing small, I realized that I just never really dressed for myself, and my self-worth tanked. So that moment of realization can both be very liberating and heartbreaking. So for everyone who reads your article or watches this, it's so important that people start realizing that they need to show up in the way we dress, whether we realize it or not, is the way we show up in the way we dress, whether we realize it or not, is a reflection of our self-worth.
Absolutely, that's such an important note, and I really hope that people start to like recognize this so that how we dress, well, I feel like actually once you sort of like acknowledge that we all want people to have better self-worth just because that's how the I guess like the world gets better. And so yeah, I hope everyone starts to recognize that.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. So yeah, thank you so much for your time and for the great questions. It was fascinating.
Thank you so much. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.